Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're listening to Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
So, on today's episode of Eating W's, we're still going to do a little bit of a Week 18 recap, but it's going to be much more of a kind of like playoff preparation and news review, almost more than anything.
There were so many kind of meaningless games, if you
Yeah.
want to say that there's no point really recapping them. If you want to see who won, all that,
Yeah,
you can go look.
What
But
we're going to do in this episode is we're going to do a rundown of the playoff seedings and then talk about some of the bigger games that led to those seedings. And then we're going to give a rundown of the coaches that got fired. And then, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vikings and their future. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a full-blown rant, but, I mean, we'll see where it takes us.
I thought last week was a rant.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did, but I'll see if I can hold myself back. But, I mean, so it's going to be a little different, but hopefully you guys still enjoy, so we'll jump right into it. So first of all, we'll talk about the NFC and their seedings, and of course the Packers being the first overall seed. Now this has pretty much been set since week 15, if we're being honest. They clinched it in week 16.
Yeah.
It's been pretty obvious for a while that the Packers were going to be the first seed.
The Packers are the best team in the NFL. Same difference,
We'll see. It's
yeah,
a chance
I know.
to prove
this
it.
is it. This is the time to really prove it. You're going in as the best. Doesn't always mean you end as the best, but I sure hope so. It would really mean a lot to Rodgers. I know that.
I mean, being the Packers are pretty much guaranteed a championship game appearance.
It's just getting past that title game that seems to be our issue.
We'll see if they can actually make it past that. And then next up, we had the Bucks.
The Bucks. Yeah. Whoa.
Tired day. I'm probably going to be way off this episode. But we'll see.
It's like a Freudian slip, I think.
We'll see. We'll see if I can narrow in. But we got the Bucks, who locked in the 2 seed after beating the Panthers last week. And I mean, with Brady, are we really surprised they're going to be the 2 seed?
I always say, it was the Rams to take if they had won. The Rams
definitely,
win.
Yeah.
Against Seattle, they played.
No, they played 49ers.
They played San Francisco, that's right. Because San Francisco had to win to get in. We'll talk about them later.
Yep.
But if the Rams had won, they would have just automatically been the 2 seed. I think Tampa came up from the 3 or the 4.
I think
to
3,
come up to 2. So they weren't really expected to get the 2.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Brady does missing Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans having that on and off hamstring injury. And Leonard Fournette, I think, might still be out for the first wild card
still
week at
out,
least.
yeah.
So we'll see if Brady can still do it without that stacked team.
They scored 41 against Carolina, but Carolina might have been a little checked out.
I was going to say against Carolina. I don't know how much that actually. But next up, we had the Dallas Cowboys, who locked in the 3 seed. Mike McCarthy and that talented team, as Callan has been saying all year.
Again, this is sizing up for McCarthy going to Green Bay for the NFC title game, because there's no way that Dallas plays Green Bay in the divisional round. The only way they'll play is in the title game, and I don't even want to think about it yet. I can't yet.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd like to see it.
I know.
I think that would be a hell of a game.
It's must-see TV. It'd be super exciting. But I can't even begin to fathom that yet. I gotta get past the divisional round.
That's
first.
kind of my prediction, and that's more what I want. I really hope that happens. That'd be
Dallas,
awesome.
they were the 4 seed.
Yeah,
they moved up too with the Rams.
And the Bucks were the 3.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. So everyone just Rams went to the end, and everyone else moved up.
Yep, so then as we just mentioned, the Rams are now the 4 seed. They were the 2, but then the Cowboys and Bucks both won, and the Rams lost, so they moved back to the 4 seed. I'm kind of surprised they moved all the way back to the 4 seed, but it's going to be a very entertaining matchup that we'll talk about in a second.
It makes it Rams-Cardinals, and so the Cardinals being the 5 seed.
The Cardinals pick up the 5 seed.
They did that because if they had then beaten Seattle, the Cardinals would have been the 4. So I'm not sure how much of it really makes a difference. It just depends. Was this game in LA or was it in Arizona? And divisional opponents, I don't think that matters.
No, not really much. Helps a little bit, but
with divisional opponents, I think that it's even more minuscule than it really is in itself already. Home field advantage, I think, is a little bit overblown.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool, but it doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely helps, but it's
know?
by no means a deciding
Mm-hmm.
factor in the game. So, like we just mentioned, Cardinals being that 5 seed, that's going to be a fun matchup. I'm
That's
really
probably
excited
gonna be
to
the
watch
best
that
game
one.
of the weekend so far.
Yeah, that NFC West
And-
was wild this
And
year.
that's the Monday night wild card game.
Oh, is
First
it?
ever Monday night playoff game, so that's pretty cool.
So that'd
And
be cool.
They picked a hell of a good one,
Yeah.
I think. Rams Cardinals, and they'll have the Manning cast too.
And they'll still do the Manning
Yeah,
cast?
they're doing the Manning cast for that one.
That'll be cool. That'll get a lot of viewers.
Mhm.
And then speaking of the NFC West, moving on to the 6th seed in the NFC is the 49ers. So
Yep.
3 teams from
Three
that
NFC
division
West
ended up
teams, which
making
is
it.
what we kind of thought
Yeah,
all
so
along.
a lot of people were saying 4 even are going to be
Possibly,
in there, so.
yeah. I know a lot of people thought Seattle was going to be up there too, but they had a really down year.
Yeah.
But yeah, with San Francisco beating the Rams, forcing them to the 4, allowed San Francisco to get in.
They are just winning nail biters left and right. I do not see them going very far in the playoffs. I think their run might end very early with that Dallas matchup.
I just don't want Green Bay to play them.
having flashbacks.
Already. Yeah, already.
And then to finish off the NFC, man, if you would have told me that the NFC East was going to have 2 teams in the playoffs this year, I would have laughed you out of the room. But the Philadelphia
This is
Eagles,
the team I want to see. This is...
I am excited. The Philadelphia Eagles slip into the 7th seed and will have a first-round matchup against the Buccaneers. The
Against
very
Brady.
beat-up Buccaneers.
The Tom Brady Buccaneers, who the Eagles have single-handedly beaten Brady on the biggest stage before. So they've done it once. Can they do it again? If that happens, that ensures that Philly goes to Green Bay for a little bit of a retribution game for me. There's a little personal history there between the Packers and Eagles.
Yeah, I would love to see that matchup. I mean, I think the Philly Bucks game is going to be good, and I think a Philly at Green Bay game would be really fun to watch in that divisional round. So.
It could be. I think they could upset them. I really do. Just because of, yes, the dysfunction that Tampa's going through and the injuries. You're not telling me that's not distracting. Plus, again, Philly has had Brady's number. It seems like the teams that can beat Brady can beat him.
Do it, like,
can beat him pretty
consistently, yeah.
consistently. It's just the teams that can't.
Not at all.
Jets, Bills, those
It's
guys.
true. That's funny. I never really
Yeah.
realized that. But yeah, that should be a great matchup there. Good on Philly slipping into the playoffs. So now we'll jump over to the AFC part of the playoffs, starting with the 1st seed, who is the Tennessee Titans, which, man, so much respect for Vrabel in that team. Losing Derrick Henry, by far the best play on their team
And
so
now
early.
they get Derrick Henry
and
back.
still getting the 1st seed in the AFC. That is crazy to see.
And they get, like I said, they
And
get him back
now they
for
get
the
Derrick
divisional
Henry
round.
back for divisional round.
Oh yeah,
because they got the bye.
They got the bye. It was perfect for them. That was what they were shooting for.
Man, I don't think Super Bowl team. I'm not going Super Bowl team yet, but they should definitely be in that AFC Championship game. I would not be surprised at all to see them in that game. Moving on to the 2 seed, of course, being the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, for the awful start they had to the season, what were they, like 1-3, 1-4 to start the season?
It was bad. I don't know. They were a terrible team for a while.
They
got better.
I'm so not surprised, but then still surprised that they made the 2 seed. I don't know what to think about it.
Instinct says don't be surprised, but if you've watched this season, you're surprised.
You should be surprised, yeah. If they would have made the 1st seed, I would have been shocked after that start, and they almost did.
Houston almost upset Tennessee.
Houston almost got them. They probably should have.
And helped out their ancestors, the Chiefs.
I mean, that would have been...
The little history lesson. The Chiefs used to be the Texans.
Oh, really?
Way back in the day. Yeah, way back.
Interesting.
Early AFL days. So, yeah, Houston Texans almost helped out their ancestors there.
But, yeah, I guess good on the Chiefs turning around and getting to that 2 seed. Mm-hmm. Moving on to the 3 seed, we had the Buffalo Bills locking in that 3 seed and winning the AFC East in Week 18. So, I mean, again, kind of not surprised, but surprised at the same time, because if you look at this Bills team last year, people were saying Super Bowl bound last year. I mean, it was a shoo-in that they were going to make it, and then they've just shown such inconsistent play this year, but they were still able... they were still able to slip into that 3 seed, so you can't give them too much crap, I guess.
Yep, with New England losing to Miami and ensured that the Bills had the 3 seed and won the AFC East. But the reason they struggle so much is they have no running game. Their top rusher is Josh Allen, and your quarterback just shouldn't be your top rusher, sans Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick.
And Lamar Jackson isn't even always the top rusher.
Yeah,
so.
in Baltimore, he's not always. They still know how to use their running backs, even as quarterbacks. But
they can use their running backs anywhere.
Anywhere on the
field.
field.
That's the craziest thing.
But that's what they do. They're good at that, you know. So Buffalo, not good at it. Josh Allen should not be your leading rusher.
No, definitely not.
Not with that
team.
team. Not with the receiving that you have, and you have running backs. Singletary and Zach Moss are great complementary pieces. I don't know why they haven't used them.
Well, then not to mention the speedy Matt Breida that they picked up in the offseason.
They even had Breida. That's right. He had a couple of games where he was the star. Where it was like everybody was like, "Oh yeah," and then we forget next week. It's
because he gets like 2 touches.
Next week. Yeah, he'll have 2 touchdowns and then 2 touches. So now though we get the rubber match, right? Bills versus New England.
Yep.
The rubber match.
Yeah.
We get Game 3, which doesn't happen very often in the NFL.
Yep. The true tiebreaker. Then 1-1.
And this will be Belichick going to Buffalo, where he famously ran the ball 49 times and threw it twice earlier this season.
Hey, he threw it 3 times.
Oh, my bad. A typo.
He only completed 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He completed 2 passes.
One of them being a screen behind the line of scrimmage. That game was
That's
so
a whole
wild.
nother issue. I don't think a screen pass should be kind of... But that's a whole nother story, man. We can't get into that.
Yeah, that would be it.
That's opening a whole nother book there. The Patriots, though, going into Buffalo, if they beat Buffalo again in Buffalo and eliminate them, I have strong sources that telling me McDermott will be fired if that happens.
I would be shocked if they gave up on McDermott.
Will look at Brian Flores, and that the only reason this is a possibility is they didn't expect Flores to be available, which I am shocked by. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, so there could be more coaching vacancies after this wild card weekend, depending on the outcome of the games.
A little bit of extra controversy there.
Mm-hmm.
But next up, we'll move on to the final division winner and 4th seed of the AFC, which was the Bengals, who were able to pick up that AFC North division. Not the hardest division to pick up this year, but either way, they still picked it up. They still got the win, and
Somebody
got that
had to win
4th seed.
It's like the NFC East. Damn it,
Somebody
had to win it.
They were fighting all year to not win it, but they ended up getting it. The only thing that makes me nervous about the Bengals, I think they're a good team, but they're a very, very, very young team. I don't know how much playoff experience is on that roster.
Look at earlier this year after they had that big win to give them the 1 seed at the time, and then they go and shit their pants against the Jets.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so these young, inexperienced teams get super excited, get kind of big-headed, and then they get taken by surprise.
I could see them making it to divisional round, but I don't know if they'll make it much past that.
And it'll be against a very strong-willed team.
And as next up for the 5 seed in the AFC is the Las Vegas Raiders. The 5 seed, not even slipping in at the 7, not even making the 6, being the top wild card team at that 5 seed.
The 5 seed Las Vegas Raiders. If you had told me... I don't even know what point in the season you could tell me that the Raiders were going to be the 5 seed, and I would have been stunned. Because, I mean, I looked at them as possible AFC West contenders at the start of the year with young superstar wide receiver talent, a very strong, hard-headed head coach.
Zero DUIs.
Zero DUIs or suspensions at this time. And then I would have thought, I don't know if they'll ever win a game again. To holy shit, this team might actually win the West. I don't know what to think of the Raiders.
The Raiders have had an insane season, so the fact that they are the 5 seed right now is just mind-boggling. But hell, I
can't figure it out.
I don't think it'll happen. But at this point, send them to the Super Bowl, bro. Let's see the craziest run ever. This is
I think the Raiders are actually trying to end the season. Like they just can't. Like they don't want to make it obvious. Like, but they're trying to do like South Park Little League. I
saw a stat Monday morning when I was watching Good Morning Football. This is the first team to ever fire their coach mid-season and then make it to the playoffs with an interim head coach.
Also, the first team to kill somebody and then make the playoffs.
Make it to the playoffs.
Actually, I take that back. Yeah, Dante Stallworth killed someone when the Patriots went undefeated.
Oh, did he? I thought maybe it was Ray Lewis.
Same thing, DUI. Sure. He hit someone.
Didn't Ray Lewis kill somebody too?
Yeah, but that was different. He paid someone to do it.
Oh, okay. So he didn't actually do anything.
No.
So take him out of the
That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay once that happens. But yeah, that's going to be a very interesting matchup to keep an eye on.
That game's going to be great
Bengals Raiders game. And then as Callan already mentioned, we already talked about a little bit, New England slipped into that 6th seed. Mm-hmm. So without Tom Brady even, they were able to make the playoffs. And then finally, probably the shocker of the entire playoffs is the Steelers.
Pittsburgh
somehow
Steelers.
Making it in at that 7th seed. And the way they did it was insane. They not only beat the Ravens on a last-second field goal, I believe, maybe overtime field goal even, I can't remember exactly.
It was overtime field goal, yep.
But they also needed the highly unlikely event of Jacksonville going into Indianapolis and beating the Colts. And they not only went in and beat the Colts, but pretty well dominated the Colts. I mean, Carson Wentz earned our head slap of the week. And the whole team earned our head slap of the week. But mostly Wentz because he literally had like...
It was on Wentz's shoulders to win this game.
I think he had like a 20 or 25 QBR, which is just embarrassing.
It is. When especially for the magnitude of that game and the importance of that game for your team. Jacksonville didn't have shit to play for. I mean, I seriously think Indy expected Jacksonville to lay down. And you're not going to get that in the NFL. You're just not.
Did not at all.
These players don't... I mean, we talked about how these are meaningless games, and we're not really recapping them. To these players, they're not. Mm-mm. To these players, most of them will get bonuses for winning games on their contract. If you win so many, if you get so many, you get this much of a bonus and all this.
Yeah.
You're telling me that these guys aren't motivated to play? Every week, these guys are motivated to play, and it's by the secret success that Johnny Manziel had.
I was speechless once that game happened. I could not believe it at all.
I mean,
so
that's what I did.
It's a little bit smaller of a stage, but you know how Jacksonville totally fell apart after losing to New England in the AFC Championship, I'm pretty sure, in 2017? I literally see this having long-term repercussions.
I agree with that because of the magnitude of it. Because the fact that you had an easy, let's face it, that's an easy win if you just play fundamental football. It's an undisciplined young team that against a veteran-led team with a veteran-led coach in Frank Reich, who's very good usually. So
very good usually,
and just bailed on the run. He bailed on JT. It was crazy. It's like he wanted Wentz to do it. And Wentz just can't do it.
Was he almost like testing Wentz? So is Wentz going to be gone now because he failed that test? He's out again. He failed that test.
Bring in Foles. Trade Wentz to the Bears for Nick Foles. Give Wentz to the Bears so the Bears can keep playing different quarterbacks every season. They pay 2 new quarterbacks. See, they'll draft one again this year after getting Wentz.
Foles is the phoenix out of Wentz's ashes. It's the only way he can find success is through Wentz.
It's the only way the Colts are going to be saved. Otherwise, they're going to go the same way as the Jaguars. And you know, when I was watching that game, we talked about it was the head slap. I literally did that. As I'm watching that game, I just went, "Oh my god!" And that's all you can do. That's all you can do for him.
I didn't get to watch any of that game really, but I just saw scoring updates on Red Zone, and every scoring update, I was just like, "No way! Like it's not actually happening." And every time it just seemed more and more like it was happening. When Lawrence threw that really pretty lob pass to Marvin Jones in the back, that was the day. It was over once that happened. But So those are your playoff seedings and your playoff matchups. We of course will do our prediction in next episode, so you will get to talk about it a little more there. So now we'll move on to the Black Monday coach firings, and then also one extra one that didn't happen on Black Monday, but was still a coach
just actually
firing.
happened a couple hours ago from our recording.
Yep. So first off, I want to start off with probably the most obvious one with Matt Nagy. But Nagy also took Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, down with him.
Well, I mean, how many quarterbacks can you draft and sign and I don't know, pull out retirement and trade for? And they just, none of them work? None of them work.
Not one.
How do you expect to keep your job?
Ironically, I still think Fields is going to play out for the nice, so I
yeah,
guess
we'll see if he hasn't been destroyed by this year.
I guess Pace left him with a gift as he got fired with Fields, but we'll see how that plays out.
Fields is just going to blow up now, and Pace is just going to be, it's like, that's mine.
He's gonna be like,
that's
mine.
That's my guy. That's my boy.
No, not much to say about Nagy because that one was quite obvious.
The only thing that I can really say about it is it's almost shocking the fall from grace. Remember 2018? They won the North. They were supposed to be the new top team. Nagy was this, new exciting head coach, brought all these new ripples to the offense. And it's like he just went dumb.
Very much.
It's like he read the Coaching for Dummies book and was like, there we go. This is what I'm going to follow
I'm
now.
doing this.
This is what to
right
do.
Here, this is where
and that's what he did ever since. I don't know. And then,
It's crazy.
Pace just kept drafting quarterbacks and signing quarterbacks and trading for different quarterbacks. And how are you supposed to do that? The old saying is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Well, what if you have 7? I mean, I think that's just what they were trying to do. They were like, if you have 7 quarterbacks, maybe you have 1. No, you still have none.
No, that's pretty obvious.
And so you're fired because of that.
And then another pretty obvious one, I'd say, with Mike Zimmer getting fired from the Minnesota Vikings. As
Are we
well
doing
as
this rant now?
No, I'll save the
All
other
right.
stuff for later. But Zimmer getting fired, as well as Rick Spielman, the GM, also
I'm
heading out the door
surprised
with
by
him.
Spielman getting fired.
I'm also surprised by
I thought
Spielman.
he did really good at finding and evaluating talent and bringing in players.
Yeah,
I never thought lacked talent or anything like that.
I was really surprised about Spielman too. I guess Ziggy Wolf, the owner, has talked a lot, and he just kind of said that over this season and over these past few weeks especially, they've kind of redirected what they want their team to be and thought about that a lot, and Spielman didn't fully fit that. So they're just going to kind of wipe the slate clean and kind of restart from there. So I really liked them both. I like Zimmer. I like Spielman. It's sad to see him go. Happy that they were able to do what they could for the team. But it's just
So
it's time for
going
new
to a
people.
rebuild? Or are they
doing-
keeping around like Cousins and...
We've been doing
Because
this.
you guys have veterans.
We've been doing this weird soft rebuild for like the last 2 years. I don't know exactly.
Yeah,
but
but
I think
mean,
we're probably just gonna keep doing that.
if you keep rebuilding the same layer, you're not making progress.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
We're just gonna be a slightly competitive rebuild team, I guess. Is what we're
Every
gonna
year.
be. So, gotta love it. And then moving on to the one that just happened a few hours ago, Joe Judge got fired from the New York Giants, as well as their GM, Dave Gettleman. Again, not really surprised. I mean, when you're a first-year coach in training camp, you already have
He's
teams.
second year.
Oh, is he?
Second
but
year
still,
coach.
second-year guy, and you in training camp have guys fighting consistently, and you're having to condition them like
I'll
you're
tell
in
you
high
what
school.
did it. You know what did it? When you're on your own 9-yard line, it's 3rd and 5. You line up in a goal line formation and you run a fucking QB sneak. And that just tells you you've checked out. I've never seen anything like that except in a Madden game. I never thought that would actually happen. Have you? Have you ever thought a
I was
QB
shocked
sneak
when you did it.
from the 9-yard line on 3rd and 5, or maybe it was from the 5 and 3rd and 9, which doesn't make it any better. In fact, that makes it worse.
No, it was 35. It was 5.
So, but still, I don't think that guy knew what he was doing. I think he sold himself to Gettleman and the owner of the Giants. I can't think of who it is right now. I think it's John Mara. I think
Mara
he just
sounds right.
I think he just sold himself. And and they bought him, and he was like, "Shit, I can't believe that worked."
When you lie on your resume, you don't know what you're doing. No, yeah, what he did with that offense, there is no way he kept a job after that.
No, not with that talent. When you have Saquon Barkley, I mean,
Yeah.
that alone is enough talent that you should be winning some games.
At least a couple, especially when you have a pretty stellar defense that was holding
And that
teams
defense,
to
I mean,
under 20
look
a
at
game.
look at how often the Bears and the Vikings use that exact same formula and win numerous games
Yeah.
of having a running game and a stout defense. It is the most old school recipe to win football. It worked back then. It still works now.
I mean, if you don't count all the times the Giants' offense gave the opposing team the ball inside their own 20, the Giants' defense only gave up. They had to average almost 15 points a game is all giving up. So that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but moving on to two that are just coaches, no GMs. First, we got the Broncos with Vic Fangio got fired. And I'm a little surprised about this one. I'm not overly surprised. I mean, the Broncos have just been such a, overall, I'd say pretty disappointing team. But more than anything, me being surprised about Fangio getting fired, this is a great opportunity for whatever head coach comes in next. This is a really young team with a lot of talent and some pretty decent cap space and draft capital. So someone's going to come in and have a heyday there in Denver.
Someone said, or on Twitter, someone was tweeting that Denver fired Fangio so that Rodgers can pick his coach.
Wouldn't even be that surprised, not going to lie. So.
I don't think he's going to Denver anymore, though. I think Pittsburgh or Miami, honestly. That's my two. But that's another episode. We'll talk about that in the offseason.
I kind of forgot that Denver was a big one.
Yeah, but I saw the Fangio firing coming because last year the Broncos hired former Vikings employee George Patton to be their new GM. And so with a new GM usually comes a new coach, new regime, So it seems like writing on the wall. Like they kept Fangio. They're like, okay, you got a chance. You got to succeed this season. And he didn't. He had successful moments, but obviously I think success would have been playoffs, AFC West title. Either of those, I think Fangio keeps his job.
I think Fangio to the Denver fans is kind of like Zimmer to the Vikings fan, where you're
Very
happy
respectable.
where you're happy you had him, but it's time to see him
It's just
go.
time to move on, and especially Fangio is much older. Great defensive coordinator. If he wants to keep coaching, he'll be a fantastic defensive coordinator for someone somewhere.
Definitely. And then probably the shocker of the Black Monday, or by far the shocker, Brian Flores got fired from the Miami Dolphins, which I could not believe.
This is a guy who has a winning record against Belichick. I'm
rare
just
to
saying
see.
that's a lot. That has a lot of carry with it because he's coaching the Dolphins, so they play him twice a year. He's like, I might be wrong on this. He's like 5-2 against Belichick or something like that, or like
They beat him a lot.
Maybe 5-3, but he has a winning record against him. I'm sorry, he was only there for 2 seasons.
I believe so. Yes.
So I think he was 3-1 against them.
That makes sense.
He lost one last year. He swept them this year. So yeah, he was 3-1. Yep, it seems like he's been there a lot longer because he's done really good.
It's 3 max. It might be 3, but if it is, that's all. Yeah.
And I'm very surprised by it. I thought he was a great coach. I thought he was great for Miami. I mean, somebody who has a winning record against Belichick, who's a Belichick disciple, which many of his disciples don't have very good records against him. So the fact that there was a coach that had a winning record against him, and the Dolphins were like, I think we can do better. I don't know. Although there is rumors that the owner of the Dolphins, I can't remember his name, it's something Ross, Mr. Ross, has a very strong connection with Jim Harbaugh. And then apparently that's the big thing, is that he's thinking he can get Harbaugh down to Miami.
Be an interesting thing to see. But moving on from Flores, because he's kind of connected to the next thing I'm going to talk about, spoiler, I want to just talk about quick some of the GMs and coaches that I'd really like to see the Vikings pick up. Since this is kind of a Vikings and Packers oriented one, I would just want to talk about the Vikings, being a Vikings fan.
We have our guy. Our guy's the hottest coach in the league. So
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is pretty much your coach, you mean?
And LaFleur. I even got my hair cut like Matt LaFleur.
LaFleur ain't gonna do shit.
I got the
Rodgers is
LaFleur.
gone, let's
I got
be
the
honest.
LaFleur cut.
No, but one thing I would love to see from the Vikings is I want to see them match a GM with a good background in player personnel and a better background in scouting specifically with a guy who's really proved that he can develop young talent well. Which I know that's kind of broad to say. Any team would love to have that, but that's something I think we should really focus in on. So some of the GMs I would like to see hired, and these are all people in either player personnel or scouting, is Joe Hortz, who is the Ravens Director of Player Personnel. He is very respected in the scouting community and has been in Baltimore for the past 7 years. Another guy I'd really like to see is Glenn Cook, who is the Browns VP of Player Personnel, and he was a huge aid in turning that laughingstock Browns team into a pretty respectful team and playoff contenders over the past few years, as well, along with Stefanski and Barry there, their GM. And then a kind of a dark horse guy, but one I wouldn't mind seeing, is Malik Boyd, who is the Bills' Director of Scouting. He has nearly 2 decades of scouting under his belt and has built a pretty damn solid roster there in Buffalo. So he's somebody that you would have to learn a little bit about the GM side more, but I'd be interested to see him.
Any inside options?
No,
In-house
not
options, I guess?
Not really that I'd like to see. Like I said earlier, I think that it's just time to kind of get a new palette.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well, like
really
when
restart.
the Packers fired Thompson, they promoted from within.
Did they?
Gutekunst
Gutekunst?
was under Thompson. Was under Thompson.
Yeah,
so.
I wouldn't mind seeing some in-house stuff, but I don't think it's going to end up happening. And then some of the head coaches I'd like to see, as I mentioned earlier, Brian Flores got fired, and he is the only defensive-minded guy that I'd be, like, happy to see.
Yeah, you guys have went defensive-minded for these last 7-8 years.
I've been talking...
I wouldn't be surprised if you shook it up.
I've been talking the past few weeks. I'd really like to see us go offensive-minded head coach over defensive. But, I mean, Brian Flores has shown that he can take a young, kind of sporadic roster and make it pretty good. I know Tua has definitely progressed. He's not great, but I mean, you know my opinion on Tua. I think that's a little more on Tua than it is on Flores.
Here's the thing about Flores. Flores seems like the type of guy where it's like, I want to play for that guy.
Exactly.
He seems like the kind of guy who's like, I
leader of
will
men.
fight
Yeah.
for you. Like, he's one of those kind of guys. And you can get a lot out of a team with a guy like that.
Yeah,
a lot.
If we went defensive-minded, I would only be happy with Flores, but I would much rather go offensive, which leads us into Eric Bieniemy would be one of my favorite offensive-minded head coach picks.
I mean, that's everyone's hot coaching commodity.
Yeah,
right now.
I know we probably won't get him because, like you just said, he is the hot commodity. And I think Andy Reid definitely also played a huge part in that offense there in Kansas City. And
Actually,
it
I
makes
have a theory on Bieniemy. I think that Andy Reid will retire at the end of this season, and Bieniemy will take the Chiefs' job.
I could see something like that happening. Makes me a little nervous that Bieniemy, I don't think he has a ton of experience in play calling. At least he hasn't the past few years. So we'll have to see how that plays out there. But he's developed so many young receivers into viable receiving options, which I know you can say Mahomes has done that more than Bieniemy. But we have so much young receiver talent on our team, so I'd like to see a guy like Bieniemy. And then finally, kind of my dark horse candidate for the coaching option would be Brian Callahan, who's the offensive coordinator currently in Cincinnati with the Bengals. And we got a young team full of really good young talent, and he has shown that he can develop good young talent into nearly automatic stars with all of those guys there in Cincinnati. So that would be so cool to see. And either of those offensive-minded...
Also, and with the Cincinnati guy, I mean, 7 years ago, you took Cincinnati's defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer.
It worked out pretty well for us. I mean,
why not now
I'd
try
take
the
where it
offensive side?
Yeah. And either of these offensive-minded guys, they need to promote Andre Patterson, our defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator, to our main defensive coordinator automatically. I think he would really thrive in that role. So, those are just some of my picks for what I think the Vikings could or should do, or what I'd like to see. So that was our NFL Week 18 recap. Kind of is a little different, but I hope you guys still enjoyed.
Recap with news reaction.
Exactly. And thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, don't forget
to eat the W.